It's time for Kit Kat 1, 2, 3. Kit Kat 1, 2, 3. Kit Kat 1, 2, 3. Yay!
Debbie and Eliza Thornberry on Nick's wildest new Nicktoon, The Wild Thornberrys.
Well, it's all about moi and how
Debbie, it's about all of us. Darwin, Donnie, me, Mom, Dad.
Okay, it's about how Mom and Dad drag us through the wild so they can film their nature show.
Come on, we explore, we see tons of animals and have awesome adventures. Like when that rhino chased us.
Blah, blah.
And I can talk to animals, but nobody knows.
What?
Nothing. Snakes!
The Wild Thornberrys, every Tuesday and Thursday at 8, 7 Central in the Nick-O-Low Zone.
Hello, everybody. We're back here again for another installment of the Nick-O-Low Zone. Today we'll be covering the third Klasky Csupo-made Nicktoon. Here is The Wild Thornberrys. So, The Wild Thornberrys is the 11th Nicktoon I'll be covering for this series. It was created by Arlene Klasky and Gabor Csupo, obviously, and also co-created by Steve Pepoon, David Silverman, and Steven Sestarskik. It ran from September 1st, 1998 to June 11th, 2004, over 4 seasons, 91 episodes, 1 theatrical movie, and 1 crossover movie with Rugrats, mentioned before. It was originally pitched to Fox under a different title and main character called Nigel Thornberry's Animal World, but was eventually revived into the show we know today. It was the first Nicktoon to run for 22-minute episodes instead of being split into 2 segments, and had a specialist assigned to them to research the locations the Thornberrys would go to as part of the show. The Wild Thornberrys stars 12-year-old Eliza Thornberry, the younger daughter of a family of nature documentarians. She was given the power to talk to animals by a shaman and is able to solve problems relating to her ability. Her parents are nature documentarians Nigel and Marianne Thornberry, who decided to travel around the world with their family in a Comvee, which is the vehicle they live and drive and do whatever in. Other members of the family include Debbie, Eliza's grunge-loving older sister, their adopted wild child brother Donnie, and Eliza's best friend and pet chimpanzee, the lovable coward Darwin. Together they must stick together in the heart of the wilderness and solve the problems they get into on a weekly basis. Overall, The Wild Thornberrys is a relatively pleasant show to watch. It's more educational than any show I've covered so far, with it exploring various different countries and cultures and animals, so it's a welcome change from the cartooniness of Oh Yeah cartoons. I watched the pilot of this right after I finished the last episode of Oh Yeah cartoons, and the tone difference was honestly crazy. I went from Tales from the Goose Lady to poachers trying to kill Eliza's dad. It was crazy. It was fun. This is definitely one of the best Klasky Csupo Nicktoons, one of their best shows in general, let's be real. I'd put it right after Rugrats in that regard. Maybe even higher if I'm being honest now. I really like the educational aspects, the longer runtime, the 22-minute instead of being split into 2 segments, and the family aspects of it overall. It follows yet another non-traditional family. They're environmentalists, kids are homeschooled, adopted kid and monkey. So it's pretty fun to see all the little dynamics between all the members of them. Seeing the little aspects of their lives, like Debbie having a prom over the radio and Pal Joey, or joining the debate club and Luck being I, put a more refreshing twist on the average high school plots of any other show, and it's nice to watch. My favorite Thornberry is definitely Debbie. She's the typical bored teenager, but is genuinely really smart and absorbed all her parents' knowledge on the world and anthropology, and she's a really interesting character to watch. Nigel is also a great character to watch, mostly because of his voice, but he has an infectious optimism and is generally a badass. Eliza is also pretty cute, but dorky main character. Her main flaw is that she is incredibly stubborn. I used to think that she suffered from Arnold syndrome, which is just being like a boring main character that's just there. But she is very stubborn and like hot-headed, which I think is pretty interesting for the main protagonist. Although most of the characters are still interesting than her because she still has to be the straight man for all the animals she comes into contact with. I kind of wish more of the show took place outside of the jungles or whatever though. They go all around the world, and still the color palette of the show is mostly just green and brown. It's better than Real Monsters in that regard at least, but it's still just mostly greens and browns. And sometimes whites and blues when they go to somewhere snowy, but that's about it. They don't really interact with the locals that much until the second season. They mostly stick with animals in the early episode, and that's most of the series, because seasons 1 and 2 are like 40 episodes, because season 2, maybe even 50, because season 2 had 30-something episodes in there, so it's most of the series just focusing on animals. It would have been nice to see more of the cultures of the places they went to represented, like in Hot Air or Dragging Me Along. I also think that the stick together, no matter what ethos, is kind of detrimental at times, like in the episode A Family Tradition, where Liza and Debbie sacrificing their grandma and having a normal Thanksgiving for once, to stay behind in Madagascar and have a dinner of rice, for no other reason than it wouldn't feel right to leave. Just leave and have a good time. You can come back anytime. Like, what? You don't have to be with your family 24/7. You can go out and have your own experiences, but you can't do it in the show because the plot mandates that you can't ever leave your main family, and I just don't like it. I don't think that is a good message to be teaching kids, but it's whatever. The tone of this series is also pretty low-key and not afraid of the scarier or sadder elements of nature, like in the iconically sad episode Forget Me Not, or in Time Flies or Gem of a Mom, where the girls almost kill themselves by accident. It's not really comedic, even though there are jokey moments, and I like that. There's obviously some comedy provided by Donnie, the wild boy. He never really interacts with the main plot, except in a couple of instances, so it doesn't get bogged down in unnecessary jokes. Watching this show is honestly just like watching an animated National Geographic show most of the time, which makes sense as Nickelodeon and National Geographic actually co-released episodes of the show on DVD together. The movie of the show is also one of the best Nickelodeon movies in general. We'll get to that in another video, I promise. I'll review all the Nicktoon movies when it's the time to. So when this series is over, I'll do all them. The cast was also weirdly stacked for some reason. Tim Curry is Nigel Thornberry, obviously. But Lacey Chabert from Mean Girls and every Hallmark Christmas movie made in the past 10 years is Eliza. Flea from the Red Hot Chili Peppers is Donnie's weird shrieks and screams, and Tom Kane from the Powerpuff Girls is Darwin. They also have a ton of high-profile guest stars, like Betty White playing Marianne's mom, and the girl's grandma, Sophie. Allison Hannigan from Buffy the Vampire Slayer plays a random animal in one episode. The girl's cousin shoehorned into a couple season 3 episodes is played by Jonathan Taylor Thomas, or JTT, who was on Home Improvement in the 90s. And Jane Goodall herself was even in one episode, The Trouble with Darwin. I genuinely don't know where they had it in the budget to afford all these people. It was very entertaining reading the credits for this show. Tim Curry puts on an obviously iconic performance as Nigel Thornberry in every episode of the show, being very strange and wacky and British, but his moments as a more dramatic father figure also really touching as well. Some of his best episodes of Nigel would be in Nigel Knows Best, Reef Grief, and the iconic Lost and Foundation. Tom Kane was another standout in the cast as well, which wasn't really unexpected. His British accent is really good and never slips up, so points there. I think his best episode as Darwin would probably be in Look Who's Squawking, but he's consistent in every episode. Danielle Harris is another one of my favorite performers on the show, mostly because she plays my favorite character, Debbie. She's a very typical bored teenager, but she has a real passion for the environment and conservation that she hides deep down. And Harris's performance in Luck Being I, where she joins the debate club and pack of Thornberrys, where she's interviewed for a private school, show her feelings towards her family's work, and it's really sweet. She really is an interesting character. I wish they were able to focus on her more, instead of Eliza, who's just always kind of a goody-goody, stubborn type. The writers and directors on the Klasky Csupo Nick shows usually worked on a ton at once, and Kate Boutillier is no exception. She worked on The Wild Thornberrys, Rugrats, and All Grown Up all at the same time, and actually wrote both of the Wild Thornberrys 2 movies, the first one and Rugrats Go Wild, entirely on her own. That's a ton to work on at once. I honestly think that the Klasky Csupo staff was getting stretched very thin by the time Rocket Power came around. Although she was stretched between 3 different shows and 2 movies, Boutillier was still the best writer for the series, penning episodes like Nigel Knows Best, which is a touching story about Eliza and Nigel hiking a mountain, Lost in Foundation, in which one of its scenes became a big early internet meme, and Forget Me Not, which is my favorite episode of the series, It's a very sad but touching story about Eliza meeting an elephant Nigel saved from poachers right out of college and her eventually dying. And then the best director of the series, I think, would be Sylvia Cullen. Sylvia also worked on a ton of Klasky Csupo shows like Rugrats and Is Told by Ginger, but she directed some of the best in her Nickelodeon career on the Wild Thornberrys, including episodes like You Oughta Know, Rain Dance, Reef Grief, which has some great underwater scenes, which are my favorite in cartoons because, you know, it's hard to animate, so I like to see how well they can do it, and Spirited Away, which doesn't have any, sorry for the tangent. The directing of the show as a whole was pretty good considering the amount of action that wasn't usual for Nicktoons at the time, so I'd give a special mention to the other directors like Kathy Malkesian, if I'm saying that right, and Carol Milliken as well. You remember her from Doug, don't you? That's Carol. She's back again. She's another director on here. Yay. And now we're on to the best episodes of every season. It's this time again. So, Season 1, Vacant Lot. A pretty exciting and honestly scary episode featuring the Thornberrys going up against two poachers intent on destroying the Amazon rainforest. Very realistic? Probably not. But it made for an intense watch and I really enjoyed it. These two poachers would go on to be the closest thing the series had to a recurring antagonist, but they disappeared by the middle of the very long second season, so oh well. Season 2, Forget Me Not. A very melancholic episode featuring Eliza befriending an elephant her dad helped when he was back in college, like I said before. The elephant eventually, inevitably dies in the end. A very touching ending with Eliza and her father, and some intense moments featuring an elephant stuck in a mud pit make this my favorite episode of the show. Yes, I'm very predictable. I like things that can make me cry, don't judge me. Season 3, Gem of a Mom. A pretty sweet episode about Eliza and Debbie trying to find a present for their mom for Mother's Day. I liked the way mother-daughter relationships were handled in this episode. It was really sweet and had a really nice ending. This episode is a couple not available for some reason on Paramount Plus. It is on DVD if you want to watch it, or you can just pirate it, but I own all the DVDs, so yeah. Season 4 is the last season with Look Who's Squawking. Honestly, this season wasn't that decent as a whole. Most of it was taken up by the origin of Donnie 4-parter, the finale 2-parter, and a stupid fucking arc where a pop star follows the Thornberrys around Alaska and Eliza falls in love with him. Cringe! I think that they were trying to chase the clout of his voice actor, Malcolm in the Middle, and convicted rapist Danny Masterson's brother Christopher as Shane G, as they tried the same thing in Season 3 when they had JTT on. Very stupid episodes, and the last of the arc was the finale in airing order, which makes it even worse. The one I'm talking about, Look Who's Squawking, is one of the only normal episodes of the season, where Eliza accidentally gets a mother penguin captured by a zoo, and she and Darwin have to make sure her egg stays warm. Overall, it was pretty dramatic, it was pretty heartwarming at the end, and it was only one part, which I think is best for this show. The origin of Donnie 4-parter was also pretty good and very dramatic. Turns out his parents got murdered with machetes by poachers, so that was pretty interesting, but I think just stick to the one episode. Some of my other favorite episodes include Reef Grief. I loved Reef Grief for the drama of it all. It was very fun to watch. Nigel Knows Best is a really good one, and a really good episode showing the father-daughter pairing of Nigel and Eliza. It was very sweet. Pal Joey was another fun episode, with Debbie finally getting to go to prom over the radio, even name-dropping Amnesty International at one point. Ooh! All the PSA heads in the audience say, ooh. And also, Eliza, this is the main plot, involves Eliza meeting up with a kangaroo cub who is voiced by Tom Kenny, so it's his third role in the Nicktoons. Yes, he's playing a kangaroo on this, and he was also in Rocko's Modern Life, so ain't that something? So it was pretty cute. I loved the little kangaroo cub. He was very sweet. And the whole plot with Debbie finally getting to go to prom, even though she's all alone, was also pretty sweet, even though she should have just been able to go to her own prom, but it's whatever. There can be a lot of criticism reserved for their parents for letting them just wander around in the wilderness with no supervision while they just do their own shit, but that's a story that should be told by someone else because I didn't mind it too much, so someone with a more critical eye should probably tackle that. Now for my worst episode of the show. The absolute worst of the Wild Thornberrys is Monkey See, Monkey Don't. Fun fact, this This episode shares the title with another bad Nicktoon episode, that being the Ren and Stimpy episode, also called Monkey See, Monkey Don't. Somehow, I think this one is worse. Eliza meets a pack of monkeys in the wilderness that claims they have no food. They do, and they decide to manipulate her into giving them all of her family's food. Eliza is dangerously stupid in this episode. Darwin tries multiple times to get her to listen to him about the stupid, ugly monkeys they just met, and yet she just keeps blowing them off for stupid reasons and decides to starve her family for these stupid, ugly things. Eliza is annoying and stupid as hell in this episode, and while she's usually stubborn and kind of reckless in other episodes, it's cranked up to 10 in this one, especially when she gets both herself and Darwin almost murdered by angry monkeys after she finally comes to her senses and takes back her food. Not good to watch and very, very annoying. I don't know why they made this one. It was very bad. Some other bad episodes include Tyler Tucker, I presume, which was the start of the arc with Eliza's cousin played by the Home Improvement guy. April Fool's Day, which continued this arc, except it's just them pranking each other, and I never liked that very much. A Family Tradition, which is the Thanksgiving episode I talked about before, where Debbie and Eliza are forced to stay with their family out of obligation instead of being able to finally have a normal holiday. And of course, Eliza Unplugged, which is the finale, and has her confess her love to a pop star at the end of the series, even though it started off as a nature documentary show. It's so stupid. I don't get why they decided to go down this route. I'm guessing just trying to get guest stars to appear on it and like trying to shill for them. I hated it. I hated the stupid finale. So that's one of the worst ones as well. Overall, The Wild Thornberrys is one of the few shows on Nickelodeon where most of the time you can keep your brain on while you watch it. It's educational, but it doesn't talk down to the audience, and is respectful of the cultures and environments it explores. The family dynamic is fun to watch, and to see them play around with it, it's nice to see a family that sticks together in general. I wish they were able to explore more cultures, maybe in Asia and Europe, in addition to Africa, but they did a pretty good job and had pretty strong continuity for Nicktoon, especially a 90s one. It was fun, educational, and nice to watch most of the time. I wonder what I'll be watching next. Oh no, it's the Brothers Flub. Who could have guessed this? Alright, see you tomorrow, bye-bye.
People usually make up names for their animals, but since Eliza Thornberry can actually talk to the animals,
Hey, how's it going?
Ah, you speak. You're like us.
she can find out their real names. The name of this panda,
What's your name? Shisho.
the name of this polar bear,
What's your name?
Nanook.
and the name of this elephant.
I'm Shango. You won't tell anyone about the water coming out of my trunk, will you?
Get to know Eliza Thornberry as she gets to know all the animals on the Wild Thornberrys, only on Nickelodeon.